All right, everybody, welcome to the Real Talk Sports Show. I'm your host, Minister Jonathan Simmons. And we thank God for those of you who are watching us live here on whatever way you're watching, whether it be on Periscope, whether it be on YouTube, whatever it may be. We appreciate you for watching and joining us here. And also, we want to welcome in folks from Atlanta's incredible radio, WIGO 1570 on the dial. Appreciate you guys for joining us. Appreciate you guys for watching. And we look forward to having a big show tonight. Of course, this is our first show post-election. So we're talking a little bit about that with our man Brian Jones, talking about, hey, how the election has affected sports and pop culture. We're also going to be talking with Deshaun Tate. He's going to be in the building joining us as well. And he's going to be talking to us about the NBA. It's been announced recently. We just got some information from the Hawks about the start of the season, when it's going to be. All his thoughts about LeBron James and his role, along with several athletes, in terms of impacting selection and kind of where we go from here. And then we'll talk a little high school football. We'll do a wrap-up looking at last week. We had a big game at our stadium that we covered, Terrace Stadium, between Jonesboro and Woodward Academy, a good one there. Talk a little pinchy mink about college football, kind of what happened in the SEC with Florida and Georgia. And then we'll do, as we always do, wrap up our program with our Falcons segment with our featured guest for the evening, the one and only D. Orlando Ledbetter. So you guys locking in right here, and we're going to be bringing you some great action. And, you know, we always have to do this. We always want to give a big shout out to those people who have been willing and, gracious enough to give us some support. Allen Vigil Ford and Lincoln, they do a phenomenal job. They actually are our high school football. You see it right there. They're our high school football sponsor. Allen Vigil Ford and Lincoln, located 6790 Mount Zion Boulevard in Morrow, Georgia. As a matter of fact, we're going to hear a little bit more right now about Allen Vigil Ford and why that should be your place to stop if you're looking for a car. Keep it locked right here for more of the Real Talk Sports Show. We'll be back. Are you in the market for a new vehicle? Well, check out Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We have one of the largest inventories in our area for both new and pre-owned vehicles, so we're sure to have something for everyone. Family owned and operated since 1982, customer satisfaction is our number one priority. Come see our full lineup of vehicles and find the one that best fits you. Give us a call today, 678-726-5739, or shop us 24/7 online at allenvigilford.net. Big ups and big shout out to Allen Vigil Ford, especially Mr. Vigil himself. A great guy, a big sports fan. He's actually very happy right now. He has been a long time, first of all, he's a graduate of the University of Florida and a long time booster for the Florida Seminoles. So he's very excited that the Florida Gators, I said Seminoles, I'm going to get in some trouble. Florida Gators, of course, we'll talk about their beatdown of their arch rival, the Georgia Bulldogs, and what that means for the SEC going forward. But like I said again, we got a big show here. And we would encourage you guys to please follow us on social media. Let's go ahead and pop that up right here so you guys can follow us, please, on social media. It's anywhere on social media. It's real easy. Follow us at Real Talk Sports, the number 7. That's where you can find us anywhere on social media. So we tell you guys to lock it in and lock us down there. And just, again, follow the show, Real Talk Sports 7, and we're right there. And we're there on Instagram, we're there on Facebook, we're there on YouTube, we're there on, we now just started to be on Twitch, we're on Snapchat, very rarely use it, we're even on TikTok on that. No, you won't see me doing any TikTok challenges. Last one I did was a 10 push-up challenge, kind of threw the OG off a little bit, so I will not be doing any more of those. But again, we are on TikTok, so again, follow us at Real Talk Sports 7. And again, if you want a little inspiration, you can follow me personally at Minister J Sim. You see it right there. Follow me. I normally try to post. I try to do this even on all my platforms, to go ahead and post something inspirational. But again, we would love to have you join us and follow us on social media. And then last but not least, please go to our YouTube page. We are Real Talk Sports TV, or just put in Real Talk Sports. I'm going to go ahead and put in the actual link. There it is right there, Real Talk Sports TV. So it's youtube.com, Real Talk Sports TV, and you can find us right there. We do the live broadcast for all games being held at Terrace Stadium in Clayton County. We are the official live stream broadcaster for high school football there. So y'all know what to do. Go ahead and subscribe to our page and hit the little bell so you'll be notified when we have a new broadcast. Speaking of notify, we want to notify you guys that in the green room, I can see him now. He is a gentleman that is involved with both sports and pop culture. Matter of fact, he is one of the lead writers for popculture.com. Mr. Brian Jones is back in the building. Brian, welcome back, sir.
Great to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, man. So this is our first official show post-election. So I know that you were busy trying to cover, obviously, the effect of pop culture. Just tell us a little bit about the vibe that was out there with so many celebrities and athletes really getting involved in really a different way this year.
Well, I think it was a little bit different from the last election, obviously, because of everything that's gone on the last 4 years. I wrote a couple of stories about how much of an impact LeBron James made on the election, just encouraging people to vote. And that obviously played a big impact on what has happened. When you talk about, the athletes and celebrities, they seem to be happy with the outcome in terms of the presidential election. There's still some more work to do, but they seem to be satisfied with how everything has played out. I think moving forward is going to be interesting um, how everything goes. Joe Biden is expected to be sworn in, and in January, and Donald Trump is doing things pretty much just business as usual in terms of his day-to-day process. So um, there's obviously a lot going on still, even with the election being over. It's been over a week since election day, and I think the celebrities and the athletes are just making sure that for those states, Georgia included, that are still that are having runoff elections, they're still counting votes. They're just encouraging people to make sure and go out and vote. So the election is something that's been dominating the news for the last week, and is going to continue to dominate the news moving ahead.
Well, no doubt, yeah. So it's going to be on and popping. I think that everybody is aware that there's been rumblings from the White House repeatedly of the idea of continuing to look for quote unquote false voting, fake voting. I heard one guy come on and say that Rudy Giuliani talking about that they found dead people on the rolls. I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, I think everybody's in the same way. Let's just make sure all the votes are counted. We don't want anybody to be disenfranchised in any way, shape, or form. And if there's been some tomfoolery, then let's go and get that corrected. So, like you said, man, at the end of the day, I just think the country needed a change at the top of the food chain. It's interesting, though, that from the lower levels, and we don't want to get too political because we are a sports show, but it's interesting that in many of the lower levels, in terms of the Senate and the House, it still seems that the people are pretty evenly divided and maybe slightly towards Republicans. So it's going to be an interesting situation once Mr. Biden is officially named the president. How he's going to be able to operate with kind of divided government. So going forward, it's going to be a very, very interesting situation. From your perspective, who were really some of the key people in quote unquote pop culture that you think, from your perspective, had kind of the biggest impact on this election?
Well, it's funny because Shannon Sharp said LeBron James and Stacey Abrams are two individuals that have made the biggest impact when it comes to the election. Stacey Abrams, a former um, person that was being up for governor, she is still really busy in the political world here in Georgia, close to being a vice presidential nominee, and she has pretty much done a lot in terms of, she wrote a book about her path to trying to be governor of Georgia. She has pretty much started her organization to where she's making sure every vote is counted. And then when it comes to LeBron James, as I mentioned, he's pretty much done the same thing, getting out there and making sure people go out and vote. Now, him and Donald Trump have been back and forth for the past few years, and I wrote a story about how LeBron James is going to now go to the White House with the Lakers, winning the NBA championship, and Joe Biden going to be president. So I think those guys, I think James and Abrams are probably two of the biggest um, key figures when it comes to how this election played out. There are some people who necessarily don't like LeBron James because of his political views, but I think with him being the face of the NBA, I think, and based on how everything's going, I think he has to be kind of the face of racial and social issues. So I think, and also I think the fact that the NBA has also been made it a big impact with the arenas either being a polling place or being involved in election day in some way, shape, or form. So I think those key those key figures really played a big part on election day.
No doubt, man. It was like you said, it was exciting stuff to see. And I told people it really doesn't matter what side of the aisle you were on. It was just good to see the energy that people had to get out there and to do their civic duty. I mean, whether you felt it was the lesser of two evils, whether you really cared or not, people seem to be energized, and more people voted than in any election in U.S. history. So it was pretty, pretty cool to see all that. The other issue, obviously, is the pandemic. Um, Same thing. What have you seen as far as kind of some of the leading players out in pop culture, and what kind of their sensibility is, and even an athlete that you think, hey, this person has been, on the vanguard of kind of handling this pandemic or helping us handle a pandemic.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things right now is Joe Biden is pretty much putting together his COVID-19 task force together. And there are some people who are a little bit concerned because and they think he's going to shut the country down, have mask mandates all over the United States. But I think that's one of the biggest priorities for him once he takes office is along with racial and social uh, justice issues and health issues as well, healthcare to be more specific. I think he wants to make sure this COVID-19 pandemic slows down here in the United States because the cases are continuing to grow. And this was expected because of it being flu season, and there are more people that are getting sick. So I think that's going to be big. And then in terms of in terms of sports, it's still an issue. You have Alabama versus LSU. That's postponed because of COVID-19 cases at LSU, and then same thing with Texas A&M versus Tennessee. Texas A&M has some COVID-19 cases where players, coaches, and staff had to be isolated. So it's still an issue in college football. It's still an issue in NFL. Ben Roethlisberger, who tested negative for COVID-19, has been placed on the COVID-19 reserve list because he came in contact with Vance McDonald, who tests positive for COVID-19. And it's possible, going back to college football, it's possible for the SEC. Their championship game is set for the 19th. That could be a day where not only the championship game could be played, but other SEC makeup day games could be played as well. And then going to college basketball, Tom Izzo, legendary Michigan State basketball coach, recently tested positive for COVID-19. So it's still an issue in the sports world. It's going to be an issue until the cases here slow down. So it's going to be really interesting to see how everything plays out in the next couple months.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be crazy watching all of this, and we're going to try to bring people as much as we can. Now, let's shift back to baseball, which you cover here. Obviously, it started off kind of odd for the Braves. We had a key player, Nick Markakis, actually opt out to start the season. There were teams with inside the Braves division. One of the biggest detractors, probably the Miami Marlins. But just talk to people a little bit about where the Braves look right now, and what do you think they need to do to make another run? Because this will be the second year in a row that they would be able to get to the playoffs as a leading seed.
Yeah, this is going to be a critical offseason for general manager Alex Antopoulos and really just the Braves organization. And they have some decisions they have to make. Do they re-sign Marcel Ozuna? Do they re-sign closer Mark Melanson? Who did they bring in as a free agent? They're looking for a number five starter. Cole Hamels didn't work out this year. He only pitched 5 innings and got paid close to 20 million and he didn't play for the rest of the season because of an injured shoulder. He just wasn't healthy all year. So
Right.
it's going to be interesting to see who they get as a five starter. They could bring in Chris Bryant. I heard that name. John Lester, whose contract expired with the Cubs, is also an interesting name because he lives in Atlanta. So that's going to be key. That's going to be big for the Braves moving forward. And then Mike Soroka, he has that torn Achilles. he should be back sometime in April. They're hoping he could be back on opening day, but how healthy he'll be, that's going to be another question. And then, do they sign an extension to Freddie Freeman and make him an Atlanta Brave for the rest of his career? So, but I think the biggest issue, or one of the biggest question marks, is getting Marcell Ozuna back, which is going to be interesting because I think if the National League kept a designated hitter, which they probably won't,
Oh, right,
I
yeah.
think I think he would be back, but we'll just have to wait and see what they do with the bullpen. But I think they have all the pieces, the majority of pieces coming back to where they can make a run. They can make some minor changes to where they can move Austin Riley from third base to left field, depending on what moves they may be a trade or free agency. But I was looking at power rankings, and the Braves are listed as the number 2 team in Major League Baseball behind the Dodgers. I think the Braves have all the tools to where they can make a run at the World Series. They just need to add some pieces to where they can compete with the Dodgers and beat the Dodgers in a 7-game series. And I think if they do that, then the Braves could beat champions in 2021.
Well, no question, man. I mean, if they had them down 3-1, let's go to social media here for a second. Let's take a peek here. Sippy Sports Show saying hey to you and indicating it's their first time watching us, so hopefully you enjoy it. We also want to give a big shout out, as we always do, to all the platforms, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Periscope. Especially big shout out to all of those of you who are watching Periscope on the replay. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the hearts that are popping up for us. We see them, whether you do it during the live broadcast or via the archive. So, again, big shout out to you and thumbs up to the folks over at Sippy Sports Show watching us on YouTube. Again, guys, if you want to be a part of the show, you can just place your comments in to the box wherever social media you're watching, and we'll be more than happy to pop you up on the screen so people can see who you are and what you're talking about here. As we watch the Real Talk Sports Show. Well, Brian, man, it is, like I said, a lot going on. This has been a big year, and we don't know what's left. I mean, there's still, 2020 has been so topsy-turvy that we're not quite sure what we're going to have, but we can see one thing. It looks like sports is going to once again be a key healer for our country, and even to some degree entertainment, as people want some distraction from all of the things that have gone around the COVID and so forth. So it's going to be interesting going forward. Look, man, how can people find out more about you, like social media, website, blog, all that kind of good stuff? And as usual, when we do this, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm the trending sports writer for popculture.com. You can find my work at popculture.com/sports. If you haven't got a chance to look at my exclusive stories from Joe Montana, be sure to do that. I think they're still up on the popculture.com sports page. So be sure to check that out. And for any trending or entertainment news, be sure to check out popculture.com. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's at @BrianJones_PC. I also have my podcast, Always Football Season. I have an episode coming out within the next couple of days. And you can find Always Football Season wherever you get your podcast. And I also have a Facebook page for the podcast. That is facebook.com/Always Football Season.
As you can see, boys, Brian is everywhere. You can check him out on all these different platforms, and we appreciate him for joining us here. Let's go ahead and one more time before we jump off here with Brian. We're going to pop on to Sippy Sports Show and asking the question, do we cover the Georgia Bulldogs? And if so, can we, Southern Miss, get our old head C, Todd, I'm not sure who that is, Todd Menkenbeck. Well, we'll answer that question in just a little bit when we talk about college football, and we'll be doing that later on in the broadcast. Again, we thank you, Brian, for joining us. We look forward to having you back again here real soon.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. That's Brian Jones. He merges sports and pop culture together. Nobody does it like him. Great guy. We always enjoy him joining us here on the broadcast. And we enjoy each and every one of you, and we thank you for joining us as we continue to bring you sports from a different perspective. Well, once again, we're going to take a little break. We're going to ask you guys to keep it locked right here to the Real Talk Sports Show as you're listening to us or watching us, first of all, on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Periscope, and also on the archive on Periscope and on demand on YouTube. And a big shout out for all those of you who are audio only on Atlanta's Incredible Radio, WIGO 1570. So everybody keep it locked right here, and we'll be back with more of the Real Talk Sports Show. Don't go anywhere at all. Or you miss something. You don't want to do that, do you? Hang on.
This is OJ Howard with Real Talk Sports.
What's up, guys? This is Tim Tebow. You're listening to Real Talk Sports.
This is Charles Woodson. Let me grab the mic. You ready? This is Charles Woodson with Real Talk Sports. Hey, it's your boy JB Smooth with Real Talk Sports.
Are you in the market for a new vehicle? Well, check out Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We have one of the largest inventories in our area for both new and pre-owned vehicles, so we're sure to have something for everyone. Family owned and operated since 1982, customer satisfaction is our number one priority. Come see our full lineup of vehicles and find the one that best fits you. Give us a call today, 678-726-5739, or shop us 24/7 online at allenvigilford.net. That's right. Check out Allen Vigil Ford and Lincoln. Again, they're located at 6790 Mount Zion Boulevard in the city of Morrow, Georgia. And you also can, if you can't stop by the dealership, good news, you can shop them online 24/7 at allenvigilford.net. And last but not least, if you want your own personal automobile concierge, you can call me, the minister, Jonathan Simmons. Give me a call at 678-410-9833. I'd love the opportunity to serve you or your family or even your business in the needs of an automobile. So again, give us a call, 678-410-9833, and we would love to be of service to you. Thank you so much. Listen, if you want to join the show and squeeze in here, we have some room. We don't do call-ins. We do it like Zoom. There is the link right there. You can come on in and check us out here. I'm also going to pop it on social media so you guys can just click the link if you want. But you actually can bring you in. You can do audio only like a phone call and just your avatar will pop up. Or you can be bold and brave and actually be part of the broadcast. We have no problem with bringing you in. Again, the only thing that we will remind you is that there will be no bad language. There will be no throwing anybody under the bus in a extremely harsh way. We try to be upbeat as we can on the program, and certainly no racial epithets or any of that type of talk, or else you'll be off the show and gone. So again, I'll put it up there on the screen on social media. If you want to be a part of the broadcast, here is the link, and I'm going to pop it up here for you guys right now. Please be our guest. You can see it right there on social media. It will pop up in just a moment there. Hopefully it's coming through. Let's take a peek here. Okay, Periscope won't do it, but here it is. We'll pop it up here for you on Facebook. Bam, there's the link right there. Just go ahead, copy and paste that link. And if you want, you got a couple options. You can either do mobile on your phone. If you're going to do that, I tell you, please put on your headsets, and that's the best way to join us. Or if you want to do it on your laptop, same thing, probably better bet if you do some type of headphones. If you have a separate mic or a headset that's groovy, getting some light and decent Wi-Fi, bam, we'll bring you on. Or you can just come in like a phone guest, just come in your avatar, we'll use that. People will not see you, but they will be able to hear you. If you have a question and you want to be a part of the broadcast, we have no problem doing that. Well, while we wait for one of our other featured guests for the evening, Deshaun Tate, to talk a little basketball and the announcement of the NBA season, we're going to shift here and talk a little college football. Well, for those of us here down in the South, football always rules the roost. And if you're down here in the Atlanta metro area or in Georgia and Florida, really any place in that kind of that belt there, the game that they built as the world's largest cocktail party happened this past weekend. And for Florida fans, it was payback. I believe they had lost to Georgia 3 straight years since they had Kirby. But that streak has been broken as the Florida Gators handed the Bulldogs a pretty severe loss, knocking them off 44-28 in a game where the Bulldogs actually led that game 14-0 in the first quarter and then turned around and ended up getting shellacked, for the rest of the game as Florida outscored them from midway through the first quarter onto the rest of the game, 44-14. So it was definitely a situation where Georgia fans were crying the blues, but Florida fans are excited because now, for the first time in years, they find themselves on the fast track to be able to make an appearance in the SEC championship game. So look forward to Florida fans feeling themselves. I think that they are very excited about the idea for the first time, again, not for the first time, for the first time in a while, their team being able to get into, possibly the playoffs, and definitely SEC championship, because they have a 2-game lead over Florida. So no matter what Florida does at this point, it's kind of really a moot. I mean, what Georgia does at this point, it's a moot point. Florida would have to lose 2 more games in the SEC, and I find it highly unlikely with their schedule, and certainly the way they're playing, especially at quarterback, young Mr. Trask. He put up 475 yards of passing and 4 touchdowns, torching the Bulldogs, and really kind of exposed something we've talked about in the program before, is the Bulldogs defense, as stout as it has been and highly ranked, they had shown a nasty tendency to let themselves be burned on big plays, and in fact, that's exactly what happened. And here's some more comments here talking about Sippy Sports Show on YouTube, reminding me that Coach Monica is actually the Georgia offense coordinator. So we'll see what will happen with his, I guess, his alma mater, Southern Miss, whether they'll bring them back or not. We're going to bring a gentleman in that is one of our leading coaches here for high school football, but we're going to kind of pick his brain a little bit about college football as well. He's the head coach for the Jonesboro Cardinals. Right down the road from us here. Coach Timothy Floyd is in the building. Coach Floyd, welcome back.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, Coach, before we talk about kind of how your Cardinals have been doing, I want to just touch base with you a little bit, kind of your thoughts. I know it's really hard for you to watch any football right now because you got to concentrate on what you do. But one, did you get a chance to catch any of the Florida-Georgia game? And if so, kind of what were your thoughts about the outcome of that game?
I did watch the game. I was disappointed, but I think Florida just may have had the better team. They were the better team that day, and just when I got after it.
Yeah, no question. And of course, again, you know all about this being a coach. How many of us who are not in the coaching profession are more than happy to tell you how to do your job. But certainly, there's a lot of irritation right now with Georgia fans for a couple of reasons. Obviously, around the quarterback play. This kind of has been festering for the last couple of years, obviously with the loss of a hometown star here, Justin Fields, transferring out to Ohio State, and seeing, unfortunately, not championship level play from Jake Fromm right before he left, and certainly with the young men they have at the helm now, he doesn't seem to really forget championship play. He seems to have difficulty with SEC play. What some of the things do you think Herbie can do to kind of get Georgia, back engaged offensively?
I think being able to run the ball a lot more effective would be probably the first thing, and I'm sure they've gone through every option that they could probably come up with, and trying to figure it out. But I think if you can run the ball, and you got to have great quarterback play, elite quarterback play with some of these elite versus some of these elite defenses in the SEC. You just got to keep chopping wood and trying to get it right.
There's no doubt about that, and certainly you grab one of Kirby's monikers. Talk about keep chopping wood. Well, it's definitely now, as we mentioned, seems to be Florida fast tracking their way to the SEC title game, which again I'm sure brings some angst to Georgia fans that are happen to watch this broadcast. But it's certainly going into this season, there was a lot of talk that the SEC East was going to be a little bit different this year. I think a lot of people felt that Tennessee would make a better showing of it, but a lot of people did mention that that Florida was going to be in the mix. And I think the biggest thing is you hit it right on the head. The quarterback play from young Mr. Trask, he's really, to me, the big difference from this year, from last year, is his confidence went up 100%.
Yes, I can agree with that. And when you have a confident quarterback, he's going to make throws that he probably normally wouldn't make without that confidence. He has a lot of great weapons too, and I'm sure that helps a lot. Have those kids out there that can make some plays.
Oh, no doubt. So it's going to be interesting to see again how Georgia responds, to see if they can find a way to get, first of all, continue to run the ball, because we saw that Zeus had 107 yards, but only had 7 carries, and we know that some of that is that when your team is behind, it's difficult to run the ball. But we're just going to have to take a look going forward and see how Georgia responds to this, because, as you know, Coach, it's difficult to coach them up when kind of some of the goals can't be reached anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And I guess at some point you may have to revisit some of those goals when some of them are out of hand. But, I think in my mind, it's just no way that you can just ever give up, regardless of what the situation is. Um, yes.
And certainly, Coach, that's been your trademark with your team as we shift a little bit of high school football. Um, you know, when you guys have been playing teams of your caliber, we almost wanted to nickname you guys the Comeback Cardinals. For those people not familiar, we live stream most of the games from Clayton County. We actually were on the road for one of the best games of the season as coaches. Cardinals came from a 20-10 deficit with just 6 minutes to play to win that game. And in order to do that, they even had to overcome a 4th and 22 when they were trailing 20-10. Coach, you talk about quarterback play. Has that really been the difference for you guys, just the play of your quarterback, number 7?
I want to say it has. He's been able to make some plays with move around and extend the play, give the receivers a little chance to more time to get open, and he's been able to make some really good throws while moving around. It's really hard to defend an offense when the quarterback extend the plays, and he's doing a really good job of that.
No doubt about it, and certainly he's got some help there. You guys really have a well-balanced team. Certainly a lot of people know number 1, Alik Booker. Some of those two have got some great synergy, but also you got other players. The other thing I noticed on your team, Coach, is that you have a lot of really outstanding key two-way players. Is that something you deliberately developed? Was it because of the COVID? Kind of what's been the key for that?
With our skill guys, we want to train everybody to be two-way players, and we really push it with our skill guys. We try to get the best guys on the field. We really want to stay away from that, when we're talking about our alignment. But most definitely having our skill guys have some versatility, is something that we really look for, and try to instill in them.
Well, again, you got a job on your hands. You guys have had to play a lot of games in a short period of time. Took your first loss of the season at home against a very tough Woodward Academy. It seems like defensively they were able to hold you guys in check. Was that really the key to the game, or were there some things that you might have missed some opportunities, you think, as a team?
I think they got a really, really good defense, but we did miss some opportunities. And when you're playing a team of that caliber, you pretty much got to connect on every little opportunity that you get, and just be able to make those connections when you get a chance.
Right. Well, one thing I'm sure that you've already been asked a couple of times, but I'll have to bring it up again. That you guys have scored to cut the lead to 18-13. About 50 seconds to go. Obviously, you guys are kicking off. Everybody in the stadium thinking onside kick. And then apparently the ball was blooped, almost like a pooch kick. Was that part of your game plan to try to do an onside kick that way, or did the kicker just not execute it? Kind of, walk us through that onside kick procedure.
Okay. Well, of course, everybody knew it was onside kick, and right. We saw something that we wanted to try to take advantage of. And I think kind of after the penalty, they had a penalty. They kind of readjusted and took away what we were trying to hit. Gotcha. And that just it looked like we were pooching, but we actually did have a plan where we wanted the ball to hit. And, like I say, after the penalty, they adjusted a little bit, and I didn't make the adjustment, and he caught the ball, did a good job of catching the ball and holding on to it, once we were able to make the tackle.
Yeah, so that's what I was telling people on air at the time. When I saw it, I thought that it was. I mean, because obviously, everybody knows only 2 timeouts. You have to try to get the ball back. And so my thought was exactly what you said, that something happened where you guys had wanted to do, not really, like I said, a pooch kick, but something where you maybe got over that first line of hands players and have your guys be able to now plow into someone who maybe, like you said, hopefully would fumble the ball, but they were made an adjustment. So it was tough. But again, a battle of 2 good teams. Now, once again, you're faced with also coming up this Friday, coming right back out here and playing another outstanding Southside team in Creekside, a team that's won state titles and has a legacy of outstanding play. How do you get you guys ready now in such a short turnaround?
Well, like we've been talking about, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be fun because we get to play the game of football, and when we're playing against a good team, so that's that's just always a plus to get up to play when you're playing against a good team. So we just making sure, I would say, we're stretching and making sure that guys are getting rest and just kind of letting them know what's on the line with this game as well. We're just looking forward to a great game with a very good team that's well coached. And I think it's pretty easy to get up for a game like this, even though you've had a tough stretch. Well, I guess a tough stretch physically with all these games back to back. But I say you practice a little bit and you play a lot. That's pretty fun to me.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think anybody signed for that program. Coach, you got to know, speaking of practice, I know you are on a very tight schedule. So one more thing I just want to ask you before you go. So I'm looking at the Creekside team for you as a coach. Just give us maybe one or two of the biggest challenges that you think that you might face in going against the Seminoles from Creekside.
Well, defensively, they fly around. They got some kids that can really play and get to the football. But that offensive line is, a really, really good offensive line. So that may be probably the biggest challenge, stopping their running game with that offensive line they have. I think 3 or 4 of those guys played in the Rising Senior game, which, the top kids in the state play in. So that's going to be quite a challenge.
Well, the good news is you have the game at home. So I know you've been very excited, even in spite of COVID. Jonesboro fans have they said we ain't scared of no COVID because we've had decent crowds every game you guys have played there. So I know that's something that you and your players look forward to, playing a tough game or playing at home.
Yeah, it is, and it's just always fun to play at home because I think the crowd bring good energy. The band bring good energy, and just being able to play the game is just a blessing, and for the kids and the coaches to get out in front of their friends and family, at Terra Stadium. And it's just always a blessing and always fun.
No doubt. Well, hopefully, Coach, we'll be able to get this presentation. We got some money for you, and we just have been not able to get down there after the game because they're like, y'all got to go home. So we might interrupt you. We'll try to do it early enough in the pregame to get these presentations to you. But if not, we're going to certainly drop them off at the school because, like I said, we do have a few little dollars, not a lot, but something donated by Allen Vigil Ford for participation in the Tarrant County Stadium games. And then again, we will look forward to bringing over Mr. Cornell Hardy from D&K Sioux City with a couple of gift certificates for your offensive players of the game as well. So, Coach, we got to get over there and get everything put together for you.
It sounds good to me. I'm looking forward to it.
Listen, man, again, we appreciate you. And just let everybody know who might be watching, because we've had several people log on that we know are Jonesboro fans. You guys can actually go the archive of the entire game. That's right, full game. Is actually on our YouTube channel. So let's go on to Real Talk Sports on YouTube. It's the featured game on our page. You'll see it right there. Great highlights, great action of the game. And we even got we had a second camera, so you guys will be able to actually see some shots from down the sidelines, including the band and the cheerleaders. So again, check us out. Go to our Real Talk Sports page. We have the full game, Jonesboro against Woodward Academy. Well, Coach, again, we appreciate you so much, man. And we look forward to having you guys back, as you always do each week, to do a recap and preview of what's coming up next.
And thank you for having me. Let's go Burrow.
There we go. All right. Coach, to Timothy, appreciate him for joining us here on the broadcast, and we look forward to having him back again real soon. Well, look, guys, we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to shift to some basketball. We have our one and only basketball savant on with us here on the Real Talk Sports Show. But in order to hear him and listen to what he's got to say, you got to keep it locked right here. We're going to take a break here. For those of you who are listening on WIGO 1570 Atlanta's Incredible Radio, keep it locked right here for more of the Real Talk Sports Show. We'll be back. Nothing better than the sound of diesel in the morning. And what better place to get high horsepower diesel than the all-new 2020 Ford F-250, now with 475 horsepower and over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. You know where to get it? From me, the minister, Jonathan Simmons at Allen Vigil Ford Commercial Sales. Because you know why? I'm the commercial truck guy in the shirt and tie.
This is OJ Howard with Real Talk Sports.
What's up, guys? This is Tim Tebow. You're listening to Real Talk Sports.
This is Charles Woodson. Let me grab the mic. You ready? This is Charles Woodson with Real Talk Sports. Hey, it's your boy JB Smooth with Real Talk Sports.
Righty then. All right. We are back here. You're listening to the Real Talk Sports Show. We broadcast to you on multiple platforms, including WIGO AM 1570, Atlanta's Incredible Radio. You also can listen to us online, live on WIGOAM.com or on RealTalkSports.net, whichever you prefer. You can join us right there. Also, you can check us out as we broadcast on YouTube. Big shout out to all of you watching us on Periscope, especially the replay viewers. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing the broadcast as well. Well, we're going to get back to basketball here. Talk a little about the NBA. It's been announced. Well, we're just going to let him come on here. He is what we call our basketball savant. He has been on multiple programs around the country, including he used to be our featured basketball analyst and expert here at the flagship station of the Atlanta Hawks, 92.9. He is the one and only Deshaun Tate is back in the building. Deshaun, what's up, man?
Rev, man, appreciate you having me on again. You know, it's that time of the year. The basketball is about to get tipping. I remember at this point last year, getting ready for Champions Class, number 1 Michigan State, number 2. I mean, it was ridiculous. Number 3, number 4, first time it's ever been in New York. I can remember it at Madison Square Garden to this day. I never thought that I would be at this point 365 days later. It's crazy.
Well, no doubt, man. I mean, it's this whole thing with the COVID has been a game changer for everybody. You know, I was looking at, I almost don't even want to watch the archives anymore. You know, Facebook always hitting you up, hey, this is what you did 2 years ago, last year, 3 years ago, and seeing all the coverage of, you know, all the sports we're doing. Because, you know, with us, we cover everything. You do as well, but we branched out, and just looking at us covering the Falcons, Georgia Tech, high school football, even we covered some pro lacrosse, just being out and about. Of course, you know, anybody who lives in Atlanta knows this. This is the party and red carpet capital of the South. No disrespect to Miami, but yeah, we just were out and about all the time, and now it's like not so much. So you know, certainly to see basketball now coming back. Tell us a little bit about what you've heard from the NBA as far as the season schedule and when it might start.
So that's looking at about the 22nd of December. Probably a lot earlier. I kind of was maybe a tad bit early, but maybe doable. So they went with a few days before. But obviously, I heard at some point that I'm seeing now a notification. Suns. That's a whole nother conversation. But I just think that, you know, where we are with everything that we've seen throughout this whole pandemic and everything else, I'm just happy to be able to have basketball back in general.
No doubt about it. Of course, you know, we can talk about all the niceties of why it's back, but we know the bottom line, it is back because, you know, it's money involved. And we know that the NBA made it very plain, along with their co-partners, TNT and ESPN, that they wanted that season to start for Christmas, by Christmas, because, of course, as you know, I have to tell you, Deshaun, that is kind of the big money day for covering the NBA. I think they have gone up to, I think it's either 4 or 5 games, but it's all day Christmas Day of games now. Started as a tradition with just a single game on Christmas Day, usually involving the Lakers or a Celtics team, sometimes the Knicks. But now it's, you know, you have multiple games across the country. That's a huge game where everybody's eyes are locked on basketball. So clearly they were thinking about the moolah.
Sure, but that's not surprising me the least bit. But like I said, I'm just happy to have some basketball back in form or fashion. Going about in the ways. That's the most important thing, obviously. But there's been a lot of movement. There's going to be a lot of craziness coming up for college basketball, obviously. Even for the NBA, I mean, high school basketball, you got really top-ranked players. Where we got Imani Bates taking the Thursday. Do me this favor, Rev. Thursday at 9 o'clock, I want you to watch this kid named Imani Bates, the number 1 player in the world. I've heard people that have covered high school basketball for 40 or 50 years said that this kid, Imani Bates, was going to play on ESPN on Thursday night, is the best high school player they've ever seen. I'm not
Wow.
saying that far, but this kid is next level special. Imani Bates, you can check him on the 411 Network on Thursday night.
Well, we're going to have to see if we can find out more about Mr. Bates. And what high school is he going to right now again?
Ypsi Prep. It's a prep school.
And where's that? What state is that in?
Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Okay, right in your backyard. So yeah, it should be exciting to see. Of course, we remember, it's hard to believe, it's been approximately 20 years ago that there was some rumblings out of the Midwest about a young man who was a dominant player out of Ohio, LeBron James. Now, certainly we want to try to put that kind of pressure on this young man, but it seems like, once again, the Midwest is rumbling and bumbling about, I shouldn't say bumbling, but bubbling over a potential talent that might be a once-in-a-generation type player.
Oh man, without question, and if this isn't preparation for a rivalry enough, and I'm always gonna bump up the Big Ten this much, but Michigan come after the big fruit yesterday. They are now the #1 ranked college basketball team in recruiting in the country for next. And
Wow.
that Bates kid, by the way, did not even commit to Michigan. He committed to Michigan State. So just imagine the rivalry that there's about to be in the Big Ten basketball. Crazy. Going to follow suit. SEC is really not going to be a whole lot of predetermined basketball. Something that we usually see. 2020 is still live, full effect. The day before.
No doubt. All right, so we got some Hawks fans here. We are allowed to share on several Hawks Nation page and Pack City page. All you guys, Hawks fans, we appreciate you for letting us share on the page. So we're going to ask you the question. Tell us a little bit about where you project the Hawks might finish this year. The young core should be back intact. Everybody healthy now. They've had basically almost a full season to be able to kind of recuperate from injuries. Where do you think the Hawks, how far do you think the Hawks might be able to go next year, or this year, I should say?
I think that the Hawks, they can definitely crack the playoffs. I don't like to be the one to make like I'm pointing or nor one up with, but when you have your second best player on the floor lose 25 games right off the rip out the gate, I mean, you do have to put some. If I'm going to allow asterisks in my life at any point, that's probably going to be one of them. I'm just being honest. But I think the main thing is what they're going to do with the next pick. I'm hearing them shopping that around, and I think that they're the smartest franchise right now if they're shopping their number 6 pick. Just me personally, but nonetheless, if they are forced, at least I think so anyways, for the Hawks to make a pick and they don't get a chance to trade number 6, you're probably going Isaac Okoro from Auburn. I think that fills your needs in terms of a player that's very well balanced on both ends of the floor, prefers defense first. That's always a plus in my book. And he can defend 3 positions on the floor. And in small ball situations like this NBA is, he can defend the 4 position. And he's just one of the guys. The other guy, if I had to make a pick, would be Tyrese Halliburton out of Iowa State, a guy that can play the point guard position when it's time to give Trae Young a breather, and even play alongside Trae Young so he doesn't have so many responsibilities on particular offensive possessions. He can kind of do his own thing on the wing for a couple possessions.
Well, I think you mentioned about Trae Young, and I think that's going to be a key going forward. Can you, first of all, get a serviceable backup point guard to not have the team basically collapse when Trae's not in there? And then I think the biggest key is going to be, can he rekindle, which we saw a lot of it in the second half of the season, but can they take it up another notch, this synergy he has between John Collins? Because I think really, if this is done properly, they could be our own version of Karl Malone and John Stockton.
I'm not sure I'm giving that much praise just yet, but what I will say is that many blessings to him on the way trying to have that conversation with those guys, which respectfully I don't think that they're there yet. Nonetheless, they've built themselves a really good inside-outside tandem type of combo. John Collins being able to stretch the floor significantly in between the last 2 years. I mean, it looked different. I believe between he and Trae, because everybody looks at Trae as so much of just an offensive player in terms of scoring. But he can dish the ball, and he finds guys, he squeezes that ball inside of windows and spaces that I don't know very many people that can. And I and from the same place as Magic Johnson. So they've got some special stuff on their hands as well. The Hawks got to just really make sure that they're making the right decisions, which is going to be tough with this year's draft when it comes to next Wednesday.
Well, no doubt. And listen, man, like you say again, the time is always rocketing by us. I'm going to bring this gentleman in, even though we normally have him for the Atlanta Falcons football segment. But, sometimes we got to let greatness sneak in a little bit early. He's the embedded beat writer for AJC Sports for our Atlanta Falcons. Award-winning sports writer, Mr. D. Orlando Ledbetter, is in the building. And so we're going to bring him on. D-Led, welcome back to the show, sir.
Hey, welcome, Reverend. Hey, Deshaun, how you doing? Thanks for having me today.
Yes, sir. Well, let's go here. I think we got some comments on social media, so let's go here to social media and take a look. And here we go right here. We got, of course, our offensive coordinator. He also is the gentleman that provides the gift certificate for the high school football offensive player of the week. Mr. Cornell Hart, he's asking the question, should the Hawks go after former Georgia standout Caldwell Pope?
Yeah, I'll tell you this much. That wouldn't be my first choice, number one. If I want a poor version of a Lou Williams, then I might start that direction, which is not necessarily a bad thing if you think about a guy who's been six man of the year multiple times. I think 3 times, tied for the most, more than anybody else outside of Jamal Crawford. But with that being said, you want to start really, really looking forward to some really good deep out type of players if you're the Atlanta Hawks. First.
I tell you, it's amazing to me and D-Led, you've been in Atlanta, for a little while. It just is odd to me how this city seems to not understand personnel. Because now you just mentioned 6th man of the year, Deshaun. Both of those guys, Lou Williams and the gentleman that preceded him, played right here for the Hawks. Both of them. And if you can remember, I think, D-Led, if you can remember this, that it came down to keeping Joe Johnson or keeping our multi-time 6th man of the year. The Hawks said, we can't keep them both. And we saw what happened. No disrespect to Joe Johnson. I mean, he hit a lot of big shots for the Hawks, and even he did that for a little while with the Nets. But, when you have a guy like Jamal Crawford, I mean, that's typical Atlanta. That's all I can say about that. Listen, Deshaun, I know your schedule is jam-packed, and we certainly have to talk some Falcons football for the folks at WIGO. Tell people how they can find out more about you. You know how we do it. The floor is yours.
Man, appreciate that, Rev. Man, at Take Hoops, THOOP. Check that anywhere that you find your favorite podcast. Called Take. I like to think of it as the best, the most basketball podcast, multi-level podcast that's written. Per usual, thank you, Rev, for having me on and the opportunity, and I really appreciate the platform.
Listen, man, we always appreciate you taking time out, man, to bop in here and join us on the Real Talk Sports Show. So until next time, brother, peace and love. That was Deshaun Tate in the building. Big shout out to him. All the stuff he's doing. Again, follow him at Takes Hoops. Check him out there. He's all over social media. You guys should be able to find him and find out what is going on with him. And then just, follow him. You know how we do it. Follow. And go ahead and just, be a part of what we're doing here. Well, speaking of be a part of it, the folks at WIGO, they can no longer be a part of it because we're closing the 9 o'clock hour. So we're going to have to let them go. So before we bring back on D. Orlando Ledbetter, just want to give a big shout out to everybody who's watching and listening on either WIGO am.com or listening somewhere on the free TuneIn Radio app. If you don't have the app, download it. It's free. You put in WIGO 1570 in the search engine and voila, you'll find us broadcasting to you right there and right now. Big shout out to the guy behind the glass. You can't see him because he's behind the glass in the studio. Minister Eli Smith. Of course, people are saying, Eli Smith, where do I know that name? Of course, you know that name. One of the great legendary broadcasters of gospel music here in the Atlanta metro area for years on WYZE. Would come on in the morning and his call signal was 6 a.m. in the morning. Well, he has to still get up. Not so that early anymore. It's 9 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday with the exception of Wednesday. Check him out for the Eli Smith Show. Great gospel music, old school gospel, all the way up to the new stuff that's happening right now. Again, tune in and check him out on the dial. Again, 9 a.m. to noon time, except on Wednesdays. All right, guys, for everybody listening on WIGO 1570, we say, as we always do when we sign off, God bless you and have a great night. Let's go back now to talk of some Falcons football with our resident Falcons expert, D. Orlando Ledbetter. D. Led, I'm having some problems sharing my screen. I was trying to pull up the tweet that simply said, "Bye, Felicia," after the comments by Tack McKinley. And evidently, the Falcons heard you, bro, because Tack McKinley is gone.
Yeah, no question about it. He wore out his welcome. Overdrafted. Probably should have picked T.J. Watt that year. T.J.'s going on to be an all-pro player and two-time Pro Bowler. But somebody, Coach Quinn and Coach Olbrich fell in love with Tack, and they thought they could, manifest his energy and turn it into a positive part of the defense. But that didn't happen. And, he wanted out. He was trying to get out. He knew they weren't going to pick up his option apparently last year and asked to be traded. They didn't pick up the option. Then he came back here and clowned. He tried to go for it. He got his stuff together. He played good early. Then he got hurt. And Coach Moore said once he got hurt and he's away from the team, he went to a dark place and ends up tweeting out some nonsense and, cost himself, a situation here where he could have proved he was, better than, Devontae Fowler had 1 year, turned it into a 3-year, $45 million contract. So now that's gone. He's going to probably have to sign for the minimum if he clears waivers tomorrow. But, that's the two guys that Dan Quinn drafted to spark the pass rush here are gone. Vic Beasley's gone. He's washed out in Tennessee. And Tack is gone, and we'll see if he gets another chance to move forward here in the National Football League.
Well, I told you, G-Led, the one time I got a chance to talk to Vic Beasley in the locker room, I asked him, because I always felt that, again, we talked about this before, we're not looking for a guy to be some type of abusive person off the field or somehow, fight with his teammates all the time. But he just never seemed to have the temperament for an edge rusher. He just seemed to be too nonchalant. And when I asked him about, not calling him nonchalant, but just kind of saying his demeanor, he basically looked at me and said, well, the Falcons knew what they were getting. I'm thinking to myself, well, that tells the story right there.
Yeah, and one thing Brian Cox told me might have a lot to do with nothing, but he was like, he said nobody, he didn't like the fact that the kid had braids. I don't know what that had to do with football, but Brian Cox is old school. He's like, anybody who's ever been good is never wore braids. So, but he got him to get 15.5 sacks, and then he got fired, and then Vic wasn't the same since. So I'm thinking there was a relationship there where he was able to get through to Vic, and he told me Freeney helped him out a lot too. So,
right.
When he lost Freeney and Brian Cox, he wasn't listening to Dan Quinn. He wouldn't even come work out with him when Dan Quinn asked him to come work out. So, that was one of the issues there. And, wish them kids the best. They had a shot at it. They made a little money, and hopefully they saved all of it.
Like I said, Vic Beasley at times looked very disinterested. You're right. Everybody talked about. Matter of fact, that Falcons team, that's the missing ingredient. If you go back and you were there at the early summer camps, the whole mantra from the Falcons was a sense of urgency because Mr. Blank did what you're supposed to do. He came on, basically told Dan Quinn and Thompson Mitchell, tell you what, in this draft, I better get a minimum of 3 starters or somebody getting out on their keister. And that was it. He just made that simple statement, I want 3 or 4 starters. Everybody like, well, how are we going to do this? But mysteriously, that's exactly what they did. They went and drafted well. That was one of the best drafts they had. Were able to draft deep, hit the marks with Deion Jones, hit the markers with I think it was Grady in that same draft. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think that was Keon O'Neal, Deion Jones, and Devondre Campbell.
Devondre Campbell, that was it. So you had basically 3 guys that became really key cogs to that defense, and then you had coaches that demanded performance on the field and weren't afraid to get in their backside. I mean, there was talk about Brian Cox being mean, and also there was talk about Shanahan being a pain in the rear end. But the bottom line is both of those guys were able to push those teams, and we had a Super Bowl run and could have had a multi-year run had not been for, I either call it hubris or lack of hubris of Dan Quinn.
Yeah, Coach Quinn came in highly recommended. Spent time with Nick Saban, Pete Carroll. He'd been around some of the better coaches in football, but you're not the head coach, so you think you can handle it. And we just saw once he got in there how streaky they were. Even from the beginning, they won a lot, then they lost and got to 8-8. Next year, they started slow.
Right.
But then they got on the road, rode all the way to the Super Bowl. And then after that, they were pretty steady that next year. But after that, it was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of misses in the draft contributed to that. Players didn't grow up. Some players got hurt. The line got old sooner than they thought.
Right.
And they let Shanahan go. So you had to, he had been trying to get a head job. So, it was a bunch of factors that led to the downfall of the Falcons under Coach Dan Quinn.
No doubt. And certainly, like you said, anytime you kind of, and we all should give him pause, but when you have a guy come back that, first of all, won't admit that he was part of probably the biggest, was the most colossal collapse in NFL history in postseason, and then your answer is not to say, hey, you know what? Whose fault? My fault? Nobody's fault. The moment was too big for me, but I'll do better next year. Instead, his response is to fire the entire coaching staff. And right then and there, it should have been a signal that, hey, we're going to have a problem here.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, we haven't reported this, but no coach ever does that.
Right.
That has to be ordered from above. Sarkisian, but Marquand and Keith, no. And so they tried to argue, well, hey, we just didn't renew his contract. I'm like, well, that's firing him. So, the failed hires, Ben Kowika, and then in the secondary, that hurt. That hurt. Those kids didn't take to the new coaches, and they got worse.
Yep, no question. And really, to me, once you, whether Mr. Blank or whoever pulled the trigger, but see, once you clean house like that it, to me, pretty much ended the whole Dan Quinn good feel. Now, they still liked him, and there was still positive energy, but that whole concept of the brotherhood, to me, it almost started to go left when the Falcons started to have negotiation problems, especially with Devontae Freeman. The whole idea of bringing that up before the Super Bowl, I just started to see the cracks in the armor that you normally don't get until after you've won one or two. It just seemed like this team was just, even the fans were way ahead of themselves having parades. I was like, hey, folks, that's the stuff you do once a team wins the Super Bowl. I get we're all excited they're going, that the team is this great offensive juggernaut, but you got one more game to play, and it just seemed like people forgot that.
Yeah, they paid Matt Ryan, before he had, going in deep into the playoffs, like he had won a couple Super Bowls, and they kept doing it.
Right.
They did it with Freeman should have got cut after his Super Bowl, bringing that up the week of the Super Bowl, and then not blocking in the Super Bowl. He should have been cut that Monday. No, we don't have a contract for you. They had Tevin Coleman. They could have drafted another running back. So and Brian Hill was around somewhere. So he should have been cut. I wouldn't have brought all them people back and been like, oh, this is just wonderful. No, they lost the game. And they kept trying to get rid of the wrong people. Robert Alford, Desmond Trufant.
Right.
They still haven't replaced the cornerbacks. As you see, there are guys they drafted, Kendall Sheffield and Bleedy Ray and Isaiah Oliver. They were starters. They can't start. They're losing their jobs to Bleedy Ray Wilson and DeQuiz Denard. So they just haven't. Those are guys they drafted to replace Trufant and Alford, and they're any good. So Maybe they'll get better, but we've seen enough of them by now to know that, they can't cover outside and they get beat a lot. AJ Terrell's going to be fine. He's still getting beat too much deep, but he'll fix that because that's an adjustment I watched Trufant and Alford make, to the double moves and stuff. So, but yeah, there was a lot of bad decisions, a lot of bad coaching decisions, not getting the best possible candidate for the job at offensive coordinator. That certainly hurt them. They go to some guy they know instead of, just having an open process and, pick somebody that's got the best plan for your offense. As opposed
and you overlook a guy in house. That was the other thing too that irritated me. You lost Shanahan, but you got a Shanahan disciple right in your back pocket. He'd already built a relationship with Matt already. So to me, I'm thinking that's the natural move. Now I know the guy was young and somewhat untested, but as we can see, he's doing pretty good in Green Bay.
Yeah, he got a couple more years experience. That would have been a projection. I think he could have found somebody better than Sarkisian if he did a full search.
Right.
And it might have got you back to him, but not opening up for a full look at who's best to call this offense. That's going that's called plays before in the NFL. Maybe that might be a great idea.
I know Falcons fans, some of you guys are listening saying, well, brother, you're rehashing, but sometimes you have to know how you got to where you are. And so that's what we're trying to do here. We understand that you guys have kind of went through the story, but we were trying to bring this back because it's very critical to see that basically the rest of the league all knew, and people, that's why pundits said, looking at the talent on the field, this was a team that should be contending for Super Bowls, especially offensively. I mean, even though you can say Matt short arms the ball, he's not a long throw the ball, you got, when everybody's healthy on that team offensively, you got a lot of weapons. They just...
If you won those 3 games that you lost, you're 6-3. The same record, Tampa Bay. The Saints are 6-2. You're right in the mix. So
that's what it should be.
So they might be a little bit onto something there. That the talent's a lot better than what it was getting coached. So Raheem is showing that coaching up this team is is going to allow them to win some games. Now we're going to see here down the stretch when they're going to be they're only going to be the favorite one time against the Chargers. So he's getting ready to run into a little buzzsaw with the Saints, Raiders, Saints, Chargers, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Tampa Bay. So we'll see exactly what this team is and if they quit or not. Going down the stretch.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult. Of course, Tampa Bay was shellacked by New Orleans, but I mean, like you mentioned, New Orleans is one of the better teams in the league right now. So that's going to be the test. And then for me, D-Led, it kind of, not the same degree as last year, but it's been the same story with this team. They win when there's no pressure. Don't get me wrong, as a fan, as someone that watches the game, do I want to see the Falcons go out and get beat every week? Of course not. But the realities are that this is kind of their MO. They play very well when it doesn't mean anything. So I will be curious to see, like you mentioned, when they're playing better competition, where all of a sudden there's a glimmer of hope that if 4 or 5 different scenarios go down, they could actually get somewhere. Or if the league said, hey, because of COVID, we're going to go ahead and make a 16-team playoff. We'll see how they play then.
Yeah, but they had their shot here, Reverend. They were supposed to get to this point here, be 5-4,
right.
6-3, and then then they were in a better position to deal with the tough end of the schedule. But right now with they can't run the ball. They're 2-4-6, 4-10 in the red zone. Good teams don't blow 27-6 leads. The Saints got up 31-0. They didn't let Tampa Bay back in the game.
Nope.
The Falcons got up against Denver. They let everybody back in the game, even Minnesota. So good teams don't do that. So if they're good, then you take care of that game and get it over with. So yeah. I'm not expecting much here the rest of the way. I think we're going to see a lot of change, especially I'm drafting all defense.
Oh yeah, that right. And to me, that's the missing key. They need to get. Let's go to social media here. We got questions here from a good friend of mine, pastor of a church down here in the South Side called Fresh Bread Ministry, Pastor Daniel Fagan. We done stirred him up. He says maybe if he goes to a team with a system that will fits him, he will bounce back. I guess maybe he's talking about Tack McKinley.
Yeah, well,
I
I
mean,
thought the system fit him just fine here. I thought he just didn't come to play. He was drafted as an injury person. He had surgeries every year. So, when you draft guys that get injured a lot in college, guess what? When they get in the pros, they're going to get injured a lot.
Gonna be worse.
I stay away. Like Parade Jerry. I mean, there was a whole list of guys over the years that they kept drafting these guys with. I'm like, he's got a surgery. He's got a shoulder socket. And y'all think it's going to be okay. Oh, yeah. Same thing with Parade Jerry. He gets hurt in the second game. He had like 8 surgeries at Mississippi. So, but good luck for him. I wish him the best. But I think his problems are, he needs to look in the mirror. There ain't nobody's scheme that's going to help him out.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, you go back to the same point. The Falcons continue to draft guys that can't hold up to the rigors of NFL play. And especially, the other problem is that when they do get an edge rusher in, this whole idea about trying to make the guy do 2 or 3 different things. Like either the guy's an edge rusher or he's not. Either he's a defensive end or a linebacker, or you have some teams that have a game record type player like a Khalil Mack that can actually play both positions. But most teams, either the guy's a linebacker with the emphasis on rushing the passer, or he's a defensive end, again, with the emphasis on rushing the passer. Not, hey, we need this guy to do 2 or 3, 4 different things. And to me, that was the other thing that, you have these guys that are playing at less than 250 pounds that you get midway through the season, and have a guy come off of that 4-point stance, and like you mentioned, the first thing, try to do that arm bar, or they got to use their arms. I mean, you got any kind of shoulder situation, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're waiting to happen, man.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. And then you don't switch up your moves, and you bull rushing 310 pounders, right, and you're 255. Guess who's gonna win that?
Exactly.
So you got to put a finesse move with it, up and under, some stunts and so forth. And I don't know why the Falcons had so much problems with that. I mean, if I'm seeing that, and my guy Chuck Smith is telling me that, I'm like, what's so hard to get the players to do? The pass rush moves. And you saw even Freeney working with Beasley on a spin move, and he wouldn't even use it.
Right. And so that's the problem. When you have players that are not coachable, and that's what the Falcons unfortunately seem to do. They continue to draft guys that are not coachable. And as you mentioned about Dwight Freeney, now I know that Freeney had said he really didn't have a huge interest in coaching, but to me, the Falcons never seem to make a way to offer someone like the Godfather. I make him an offer. He can't refuse. So I would have went to Dwight Freeney and said to him, listen, man, we just need you for another year to keep this development of Vic Beasley alive, because clearly Freeney had a big impact in terms of how Vic handled his business, and we saw the guy had 16 sacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question. And I think they tried to keep the door open, but the price wasn't to his liking, for a part-time guy. And, once you get older and you've been, at the highest reaches of the game, it's kind of hard to just be a regular guy. I've known guys to turn down, contracts that they're like, hey, we just need you to play special teams for $2 million. And then, after being a star in the league and making $6, $7, $8 million, you like, that's not a good deal. But to us common folks, I'm like, hey, take that extra.
Right. Hey.
Yeah.
Well, so now looking again at this team, I know you talked about you would draft, pretty much heavily defensively, which makes sense. We've talked about it several times that this team needs what you would call a game wrecker, or a guy that could really be, basically, we need a Julio Jones on defense, which I think we kind of have that to some degree with Grady, because he's that kind of guy. He's a gritty guy. He plays hurt, and he comes to play every down. But we need another guy like a Calvin Ridley on defense, a defensive back, either to complement Connor Williams, so one of those guys can bring you some pressure off the edge like Adams does in Seattle, or a linebacker that can really give you a true edge rusher.
Yeah, that Russo kid at Miami's looking pretty good if they're in the top 10 and out of range for the quarterbacks. They pretty much can't take the quarterbacks and sit them for 2 years, but hey, I know a lot of people want them to do that. But if you look at the team in the most positive light, it's like, okay, we got offense. Run block is a little weak. I might bring in some more linemen too. But for the most part, I might get a lineman if he's there. Because Hennessy, when he played, he wasn't getting any push. He wasn't pushing.
You tell me that, right? Yep.
So, but at center, we're gonna need him to get. All he needs to do is get stronger because he knows the position. So, if he can get stronger, and you can get somebody else to help push somewhere up front, then you might be okay on the line. And then on defense, the game record, you said, hopefully Grady stays healthy. Fowler, you get something out of him. Marlon Davidson, because he come along. But Fowler's been hurt, and they won't tell you that.
Right.
He got a high ankle sprain that led to the hamstring. So now he's not even going to probably be available much. And so Marlon Davidson had COVID in the knee, was out of shape, and they're trying to work him back into shape. So, they could figure out if they wasted a second-round pick or not. So I don't expect to see him against the Saints maybe the next game. But he should have had a 4-month period to rehab the knee, get over COVID, get back in shape. And, so something's going on with him. And, they're trying to get him in shape, basically. He's a big guy. The big guy sitting around is not good.
It's hard, baby. Right.
It's hard. It's hard. So hopefully they can get him to where he can play the last 4 games. Let us see something. Because, if he can play next to Grady, then that's another spot you don't have to go look for. Kaminsky's played. I haven't seen him do anything. Deidre Sanat, he's a fill-in sub. So, you kind of know you don't really have much up there. Alan Bailey's a good, strong veteran. Tyler Davidson doesn't get pushed around. Stephen Means, they don't get pushed around, but they don't really get to the quarterback either. So,
right.
So I keep them around till I got better players, because you don't want to be getting pushed around. But, they need some better players up front. The linebackers, okay, we leave them alone. And then the secondary, you got to get these guys to play better or they're gone.
Yeah, secondary. You talked about the comeback. So now here it is. I understand you're playing a prevent defense, but when you play a prevent, there should be under no circumstance should a ball get to a player behind you if you're playing a prevent defense, because the whole idea is to keep everything in front of you. And we've watched both in a Detroit win and in a comeback by Denver, them getting gobble chunks, not like 4 or 5 yards and maybe a yak play where he picks up an extra 5 or 6. I'm talking about them gobbling up 20, 30 yards on downfield plays where you saw players not in the proper depth and balls getting over their head to an open receiver behind them. And that's the thing that troubles me about the Falcons. You got too many times where players are getting behind them like you said, you're in a prevent defense.
Yeah, and, if they had a pass rush, that would help them. But, they don't.
Right.
They got to figure out how to blitz. I got my blitz numbers here. I got to update them. But this was going into the Denver game. They blitzed 135 times. Olakon was 31. Dion was 28. So linebacker blitzes. Walker's blitzed 22 times. So they're pretty much bringing a linebacker. And then Fowler had 12, Neal 11, and Oliver 7 coming out of the nickel back slot blitz. So I'm keeping track of the blitz, and because they can't just let the quarterback sit back there and
nope.
throw. And that's going to be hard because Drew Brees, you can't really blitz him. You might could blitz Brady. He's getting old. And you're not going to blitz Mahomes as much either. So those games are going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, the whole thing with those games, they're going to have to find some way to run the ball. And I think the other thing, too, is that, don't get me wrong, he's broken a couple of big runs, but to me, it doesn't make sense to run Todd Gurley as wide as much as they do. Yeah, I'm like, hey, man, this guy, because if you watch Todd Gurley, one of the things that he does effectively, especially in the red zone, is that he operates north to south where you very rarely get a chance to see him be pushed back. He's always getting either 1 or 2 yards. Oftentimes, I've seen him get up yards just because he just almost fell or dove forward. So to me, I want to run that guy more in between the tackles and less of an opportunity him going east and west where he can't put them big old thighs, okay, and that lower body and put some punishment on you. But he's broken a couple of those every now and then. I guess the Falcons get addicted to that. But, to me, they have to find a way to run the ball and to slow the game down. Or else, these last couple of games are going to be bad watching.
Yeah, they did against Denver. The first 4 drives,
right?
Touchdown, field goal, touchdown. 5 minutes, 4 and 5. They won a time of possession, 36. But once they got the lead, they stopped playing,
right?
And that's the gift of Dan Quinn's team.
Yep.
It's become a habit. I don't know if it's conditioning, but their mindset when they get a lead is not one of tenaciousness. It's not one of killing out your opponent, stomping them out. And it just was so clear to me watching the Saints and the Bucks. Yeah, they got up on them, and Tampa Bay was going to try to, they got weapons all over the place, but the Saints didn't let them get up off the floor. And the Falcons, or whoever the new coach is, who, you got talent on offense, but if you can't take nobody out, it's going to be the same thing.
And D-Lay, it's funny you mentioned that because it was the reason why I show my brother all the time. Once a team got by 10 in the Super Bowl, a lot of times, right? Not only time did the team not come back, but a lot of times you think of the number of Super Bowls where teams went in. The point spread was 4, 5, 6 points. And I mean, they won by ridiculous margins in a Super Bowl. I mean, you actually had a John Elway in his prime Denver team get beat 55-10.
By the Redskins or
right.
Washington football.
It was right. So and this is a team, the Buffalo Bills. These are teams that were extremely good teams that won multiple AFC titles against stout competition. But once they got behind the Super Bowl, because the other team was just as good as they are, they put the pedal to the metal and said, "Good night, Irene."
Yeah, and I saw my first one covering was San Francisco against San Diego.
Right.
It was over so quick.
Boom, boom, boom.
Nice and Steve Young, man.
Right. 6 touchdown passes in a Super Bowl, D-Led. In the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was over. That was over quick, man. And but though the good teams, and if you want to be great, you gotta do great things. So
right.
if you're good, and let's just start with being a good team, and then we talk about being great. But if you're a good team, you don't let people come. You don't let the Denver Broncos come back from 27-6. You don't let Detroit come back. You don't let Dallas come back from whatever. You don't let the backup quarterback come in and throw the ball around like he's Johnny Unitas. So it's not a good team. They got to make it better. They don't have a pass rush. We've been harping on it for 10 years.
10 years. And meanwhile, you got a pass rush whisperer, which I'm not sure, and I'm just not sure what the situation is with the team and him. But you got a guy that players at every level go to him to improve their pass rush, and he's a former player on your team. Crickets. Chuck Smith, Rob the Road. Crickets.
Yeah, Chuck. I think he does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't necessarily know about.
Gotcha.
He's had some opportunities to coach. I know he's with Rex Ryan for a while. He was at Tennessee for a while. Sometimes stuff doesn't fit. Guys want to teach, one way and not the other. But seems like that is a wealth of knowledge that the franchise could tap into. And maybe they get a coach this time around that is not intimidated by his presence.
Right.
Him to coach the line. I mean, coach the lineman, not, play pity pat with him and stuff.
Right.
Although I like Coach Jess Simpson's a legendary Ohio coach in the state of Georgia. So, I'm sure he's doing a good job too. But Chuck would demand some respect from these kids that because of his tenure in the league and his stature around the country as one of the pass rush experts.
Right. Now, I can't remember because, sometimes I get these dates kind of messed up. So now, was Chuck Smith on the team when they had Patrick Kearney, or was he kind of a mentor to him? Just kind of take me back a little bit historically, because I can't quite remember because I was just getting to Atlanta at the time.
Yeah, Chuck was on the Super Bowl team, and then he left a couple years after that and went to Carolina. There might have been some overlap with Patrick, but the best pass rush they had here in recent years was Kearney and Big Ed, the tackle.
Yep.
I think they were the last two to get double-digit sacks. Because Abe was a one-man show pretty much from 04 on. Yep. But you had to count for him. And, they drafted Jamal, the other Jamal.
Jamal Anderson. Oh.
So, good kid, great kid. And I talked to McKay about him, and he's like, because he was a wide receiver, and he rushed from uncovered spots in Arkansas, and the Falcons saw a pass rusher, but, he got in the league and got big, and then he ended up his career playing at tackle. But, so they missed on that one when they had Darrell Revis, Marshawn Lynch, and Patrick Willis all went after Jamal Anderson. And some of them guys are going to be going to Canton.
And again, when you look back at that, I remember when they drafted Jamal Anderson, he looked the part.
Yeah, he looked good.
6'4", about 260, 270, has speed. Like you said, at Arkansas, had been very disruptive. And then off the field, because I got a chance to meet him off the field, because a lot of people did or did not know his dad I think taught at a school for the deaf.
Right.
And I can remember going to one of their fundraisers and just really like a gentle giant. I mean, just a great young man. So again, like you said, we don't want to diminish that, but on the field, man, oh man, he was terrible.
Yeah, he actually ended up doing okay at tackle, and got a couple extra years in Seattle, I think, and with the Colts. I see him at the combine sometimes, at the Senior Bowl. He's doing scouting stuff and helping out and everything. It wasn't his fault. They took him 6th overall.
Right.
But
they blew it.
The highlights look good. They flanked him out, and then if you watch 10 of them, you were like, hey, nobody's blocking him. So when once they started blocking him, it was a little hard for him to get there at that point.
Yep. But that was it. I mean, it's just, like I say, he looked the part. But that's been the Falcons' history. You go back, like you just mentioned, T.J. Watt is consistent over time that the Falcons have constantly seemed to pick the wrong guy, even in terms of this situation with the center. You got an LSU, a guy played on a national championship team in your backyard, and you bypass him to get a project. Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, well, D-Led, before we go, we want to let you get one more comment from social media. Mr. Football, Vincent Turner, he said, okay, how about the man from the 901, Claude Humphrey, Tennessee State, greatest ever for the Falcons, 1968 to 1981. Also asked Mr. D-Led about Chuck Smith. Okay, couldn't carry his Jock Smith strap. Okay, listen, we weren't trying to say that Chuck Smith was the greatest pass rusher for the Falcons. Right.
That's not what we're saying.
Right. And believe me, Claude Humphrey is one of the all-time greats, and I'm sure the Falcons regret letting him go thinking he was over the hill, because he went and ended up playing in a Super Bowl with the Eagles and had a couple more very productive years. So we get it. But I mean, as far as him, yeah, he's one of the best. I mean, Ring of Honor, Hall of Fame. I mean, he's one of the best that's ever put it up for the Falcons. I mean, another guy, and if you want to get historical about Falcons defensive players that never got their due, I had a chance to interview the late Tommy Nobis a couple years ago. There's another guy that, because he played in an era where they had Ray Nitschke and Dick Butkus, he never really got that. But if you look at him, this guy was a tackling machine. I went back and looked, man, he had games where he had 22 tackles for the Falcons. The guy just, but is what it is. When you play in an era when you got, 2 or 3 of the greatest linebackers ever to strap them up, it's kind of hard for you to get any love.
Yeah, and Tommy's case was, one of Chicago and Green Bay story franchise, a big
Right.
city franchise. You know, you talk to anybody, he was just as good as any of those two guys.
No doubt.
Buck played on any winning team, so you
That's
can't
right.
say, "Oh, the Falcons were losing."
Mm-mm.
No, that wasn't the case. And as far as Claude, you know, I think he left. He forced his way out of here. That kind of kept him out of the Hall of Fame for a while because some people thought he quit on his team. So and they were pushing Nobis and not Claude.
Claude, yep.
So when I got appointed to the committee, Lynn Pasquarelli was my mentor, and he was going out and passing the torch, and he's like, "Hey, I got to get Claude in." So I had the argument for Claude and got him in. Tried to get Tommy in on the
veterans.
Tried to get Tommy in on the senior last year when they were doing the 100 year thing, and we didn't get much headway with that. So it doesn't look like Mr. Falcon's going to be in the Hall of Fame unless something drastic happens here in the future.
Well, it is. We're going to give one more shout out there. Yes, we're going to give a shout out to the 901 Memphis, Tennessee. We appreciate you, Mr. Turner. We appreciate you very much. And, great things happen, obviously. Yep, Memphis, Tennessee. That's where he's from. All right, D-Led, as always, we like to give our guests the opportunity to let people know where they can be found and where they can find good stuff. So, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Reverend. You can follow us on Twitter at TheOrlandoAJC. You know, subscribe to AJC.com. We have the Bowtie Chronicles podcast there. Subscribe to that. The Cover 9 at 9 blog. And then also you can follow us on our Facebook page, Atlanta Falcons News Now. Thank you.
There you go, guys. That sums it up. The Orlando Ledbetter in the building. D-Led, as always, we appreciate you, man. Look forward to having you back with us again real soon.
All right. Thank you, Reverend. Take care. Have a great evening.
All right. The Orlando Ledbetter Esquire, par excellence, teacher par excellence, and a guy that has consistently given back to his community. We thank God for him, for joining us today. We thank God for those of you who've hung out with us here on social media. Hey, before we go, I got to put on my ministerial hat. I am a minister of the gospel of Yeshua HaMashiach, which simply means Jesus Christ. And that's my question. Do you know Jesus Christ, your personal Savior? Then I'm going to tell you, please, man, please, sir, get to know him today. Why? Nobody, not anybody loves you like Jesus. Not your mom, not your grandmom, not your auntie and them, not your bae, not your boo, not your BFF, not your ride and die, ride and live, whoever it may be that you think is the closest one to you. Nobody loves you like him. Why? 2 reasons. Number one, he made you, made me, made everything that exists here on the earth. Number two, he came here as a man, but fully God, and paid the ultimate penalty, death on the cross for all of our sins, past, present, and future. So all you have to do is a couple of things. Number one, you have to repent of those sins to mighty Jehovah God Almighty. Number two, you have to believe that Jesus came and died for you and that he was raised from the dead. And number three, go tell somebody. And then something happens. Voila! You become a citizen of the kingdom of heaven, number one. And number two, you become a full-blown adopted child of God himself. Now, how cool is that? With Jesus Christ, you can call him at any time for anything that you need, and he will assist you. And added bonus, ding, 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 you also get infilled with the Holy Spirit, a.k.a. the Ruach HaKodesh, which will now guide you and direct you, if we listen, to all the things that God has implanted and told you as you read his word, and you'll be able to live a life well lived here on the earth. And when you leave, you'll be able to go to a happy place called heaven, a place that is beautiful, where there are none of the P words, no pandemic, no protest, no politics, no pain of any type. And guess what? More good news. It's the most beautiful place ever you can imagine. Matter of fact, you can't imagine it. There's jewels everywhere. Every single building adorned with jewels. Even the streets of the city are paved with a gold that's so pure it's translucent. And the 12 gates of the city are actually made out of one giant pearl. How cool is that? I know some of you ladies liking that. And the other thing, it helps you avoid the unhappy place called hell, where all those things I mentioned that are not in heaven are going to be in hell. Lots of pain, lots of suffering, lots of bad people everywhere, and no way to get out. So how about you? I'm going to take door number one, not door number two. All right, guys, again, we appreciate you so much for joining us. Appreciate all those of you allowing me to share this broadcast on your various pages. Big shout out to our guests for today, Brian Jones of popculture.com, Deshaun Tate of Tate Takes Hoops, and of course, Esquire, par excellence, the Orlando Ledbetter, award-winning sports writer and the embedded beat writer for the Atlanta Falcons for AJC and AJC Sports. All right, guys, until next time, listen, be safe, be careful, watch out for that COVID. Just continue to protect yourself as best you can. And God bless you and have a fantastic night. See you next time. Bye-bye.